Om-Jnana-Timirandasya Jnana-Shalakaya-Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnavastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswatadevi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskachaya Desatarane. So we are in the first chapter of the first canto. Today we will deal with verses 12 to 17. I will read first text 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Sutta Janasi Bhatram Te Bhagavan Sattvatam Pati Devakyam Vasudevasya Jatayasya Sikirsaya. All blessings upon you, O Sutta Goswami. You know for what purpose the personality of Godhead appeared in the womb of Devaki as the son of Vasudeva. So this is the third question. We heard last lesson already two questions. What is the Shreyas, what's the most beneficial for humanity, for everyone, in text 9, and in text 11 we heard that the sages were asking Sutta about the essence of all scriptures. There will be a total of 6 questions in this chapter, and traditionally one of the exam questions of the Vihe-Bhaktivaibhava is, what are these 6 questions? So I'm posting these 6 questions now in the chat, and these are the 6 questions according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So today we will deal with the 2 next questions, and this is the first one. We have heard that the sages of Namisaranya, they performed their morning duties. They did their sadhana, and they asked questions, but questions that really were reflecting their compassion for the people in Kali Yuga. These sages, because they belong to Treta Yuga, to Dvapara Yuga, I mean, the previous Yuga, these sages, they were living much longer than we today. It is said that they could live for 1,000 years, but today 70, 60, 50 years, yes, and it will diminish further in the future in Kali Yuga. So compared to them, we have a short life, and we are slow in understanding the philosophy. Manda sumanda mateo, slow in understanding, and easily disturbed. So the sages they are asking Sutta Goswami, Ekantata, what is the highest welfare we have heard? What is the essence of the scriptures? Because we have no time in Kali Yuga to go to all the scriptures. So in the section of today we will have 2 more questions of these sages. So in the middle of the purport of verse 12, Srila Prabhupada says, Bhatram te, the blessing upon you. Srila Prabhupada says this indicates the anxiety of the sages to hear about Krishna. This is actually the 3rd question of the sages, according to the Acharyas. It is the 3rd question, although it is not phrased as a question. The sages are saying, you know why Krishna came, so please tell us why Krishna came. So we had already 2 questions in verse 9 and verse 11. And now we have heard what is the essence of the scripture and what is the highest welfare for all people in general. The third one is in this verse 12. So they want to hear, why did Krishna come? And they are asking, why is Krishna coming? But they are giving already a hint of the answer in the Sanskrit of the verse. There are two words in the Sanskrit. There is a hint here that tells us why Krishna comes. The first word is Sattvatam Pati. He is the protector of his devotees. That Krishna comes to protect his devotees. So, and also the word Vasudev. That Vasudev, we will hear this word in the first and second chapter again. This again refers to Krishna. That in the first verse, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that Krishna is Bhagavan, full of 6 opulences. That we won't go into this, but we will hear much about Krishna in the 3rd chapter. Then we will hear the main verse of the Bhagavatam, the Paribhasa Sutra. We'll hear there are different Paribhasa Sutra, but this is the most important. That Krishna's 2 Bhagavans Svayam. That it says Krishna is the original Bhagavan. That so text 13. Tana susrusamananam aras anganavarnitum yasya vatarobhutanam ksimaya sa bhavaya cha. O Sutta Goswami, we are eager to learn about the personality of Godhead and his incarnations. Please explain to us those teachings imparted by previous masters, acharyas, for one is uplifted both by speaking them and by hearing them. That here they are asking of the Lord and his incarnations. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada stresses the conditions for proper hearing. That so proper hearing. The first condition, the audience must be very sincere and eager to hear. Very sincere and eager to hear. That the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, the speaker must be in the line of disciplic succession from the recognized acharya. The transcendental message of the Absolute is not understandable by those who are materially absorbed. Under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master, one becomes thoroughly purified. Therefore, one must be in the chain of disciplic succession and learn the spiritual art of submissive hearing. So from it appears from the purport here and from this verse that the speaker needs to be in the disciplic succession. That and also the hearer needs to be in the disciplic succession. Of course, in the case of Sutta and the sages, they were all bona fide. And here in this verse the sages are expressing how they are eager to hear. Tanna susrusa mananam. So we heard this before in text 2. Susrushibi tat ksanat. That here susrushibi is by culture, tat ksanat without delay. We will also hear that in the second chapter. Shusrushoshadadanasya. Hearing with care and attention. Srila Prabhupada says this. 1:2:16. So this is constantly stressed. It's this hearing is the beginning of spiritual life. Being eager to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, we should be very eager to hear. Just as one is going to strangle you, you will be very eager to get a breath of air. We should be eager to hear. And if one day goes by, we don't hear Srimad Bhagavatam, it is like something is wrong. I'm missing something. I'm missing something in my life. So this is how the sages were feeling. That is called laulyam, greedy to hear. Rupa Goswami, he said, if you can get Krishna conscious, please purchase at any cost. The cost of getting Krishna consciousness is laulyam. According to Rupa Goswami, this is the price. The eager hearing is the result of our chanting. It is the result of our sadhana, of our being in association of devotees. And we will see that in the second chapter. Susrushoshadadanasya. That's and Mahat Seva. By serving devotees, we get the taste. We get the eagerness to hear. Susrushoshadadanasya Vasudeva Katarachi Syanmat Sevya Vipra Punyatirtanishevana. Getting taste is a combination of two things. Hearing with care and attention, and at the other side, serving the Mahatma or the devotees of the spiritual master, engaged in the mission of the spiritual master. That combination, Krishna gives taste from within the heart. So that is an important principle, that our quality of hearing, and the relation with our sadhana, we will hear more about that in the last verse of the third chapter. Srila Prabhupada dedicates 1/3 of the last part of the purport, the last verse of the third chapter about this. Text 14. Apana samsritim gauram yannama vishvasogrinan tato sat vimuccheta yabbibeti svayambhayam. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. So this is the appearance of the holy name in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Samsritim Gauram. Samsritim Gauram. So Sanskritim Gora means horrible material existence. So if we look at our lives before we became Krishna conscious, and if we look at the lives of those who are not Krishna conscious, then we see very tragic lives. Anyway, I think you have all experienced that. No need to go into that. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita describes the hope for the people of this age. Adi Lila, chapter 17, verse 22. Kali Kali Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna has appeared in the form of the holy name. Nama hoite oi sarva jagat nistar. It will purify the whole universe. There is no other religion in this age of Kali. In this age of Kali, the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna mantra, is the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Simply by chanting the holy name, one associates with the Lord directly. Anyone who does this is certainly delivered. Nami binu kali kali nai dharma na are kali kali kache horbe Krishna avatara. In this age there is no religion other than the chanting of the names of the Lord. But now in this age will the Lord appear as an incarnation? It's a question. Sarva mantra sharanam. The holy name is the essence of all mantras. That's Shastra Marma. So it means Shastra Marma. It is the purport of all scriptures. We heard in the 3rd verse of Srimad Bhagavatam how Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence or the cream of the Vedas. So what is the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam? It is the holy name. The holy name is the essence of all mantras. Yes, it's the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, the holy name. It is said that's why it's said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sarva mantra sharanam ay shastra marma. Srila Prabhupada said one time that all these verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, they are mantras. All verses are mantras. But the holy name is the essence of all mantras. It is the purport of all scriptures. So this is an explanation of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. That why is the Hare Krishna mantra the essence of all scriptures? That's a question to you. That you can put one line in the chat if you think to contribute. Why is the Hare Krishna mantra the essence of all scriptures? Yeah, Kali Santra Upanishad, that there is mentioned, it has all knowledge in it. Yes, that it says if someone chants Hare Krishna, he has already studied all scriptures. Means one becomes qualified, yes. As it was told by us by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, yeah. The Padma Purana, Fatrim Akshara Mantras, ja. Ja, Harinameva Kevalam, Nasteva Gatiranyata. That's from Lord Chaitanya. Nilamani Prabhu writes, Iti Soda Sakam Namam Kali Kalmasanashnam Nata Parataropaya Sarva Devedeshu Drishyate. After searching through all the Vedic literature, one cannot find a method of religion more sublime for this aids on the chanting of Hare Krishna. Vaidhyanath writes, because Krishna is the goal of the Vedas and his name is none different from him. Ratnam, directly from the mouth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So, in summary, it's Krishna. It's none different from Krishna, the holy name. The holy name and the Srimad Bhagavatam, they are both the sound incarnation of Krishna. So Lord Brahma, after studying the Vedas 3 times, said that this 16-syllable mantra is the essence. Srimad Bhagavatam 12.3.51. Kalir dosha nidirajan. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. But the holy name we will see is all over the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the middle we will hear about Ajamil, right? Ajamil. And then we will hear also in the 6th canto the Narayan Kavacha, which glorifies the holy name. And so many other references. And the last verse of the Bhagavatam. Nama Singartnam Yasya Sarva Prapa Pranashanam Pranamodukasama Stan Namami Arim Param. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hari. The congregational chanting of those holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offerings of obeisances unto whom relieves all material suffering. So why are the sages here glorifying the holy name? Because they are giving a hint as to the answer of the first question. What is the essence of the scriptures? What is the best for all humanity? It is the chanting of the holy name. Sattvatam Pati, why did Krishna appear? Is Sattvatam Pati is another hint. So we are getting little hints here. Fear personified is afraid from Krishna, and Yamaraj is afraid of Krishna. So he tells his Yamadutas, Yamaraj, that don't go near to those devotees, take those who never chant. Who never chant the holy name of Krishna. So we know that Yamaraj appeared in this world as Vidura, and we will hear about Vidura, the 3rd canto. And Vidura was always thinking that how to protect the devotees. We will see in the 6th chapter, of this canto, of these cantos, that the sages invited Yamaraj for their Krishna Katha, for their Katha, to hear Bhagavatam. They invited him because Yamaraj likes Krishna Kirtan, and he likes to make sure that we are all safe while listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. So the sages invited him because he likes to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. He's a devotee. That's in the 7th canto. So we want to chant the name with great attraction and taste. And how to do this is explained in the next verse. Verse 15. Yat pada samsaya sutta munaya prasamayana satya punant upasprishta svartuna punasevaya. O Sutta, those great sages who have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord can at once sanctify those who come in touch with them, whereas the Ganges water can sanctify only after prolonged use. After prolonged use, we'll read at the end of the purport of this verse that the sincere disciples of a pure devotee consider him equal with the Lord, but a pure devotee always considers himself to be a humble servant of the Lord. This is the pure devotional path. So this is also the mode of the hearers of Srimad Bhagavatam. That when Maharaj Pariksit heard that he was cursed to die in 7 days, we will hear, he gave up his kingdom, went to the Ganges to hear Srimad Bhagavatam, to fast and just hear Srimad Bhagavatam. He was a completely surrendered soul. And he said, may Mother Ganga accept me in this way. Let the snake bird bite me. Maharaj Pariksit said, I want only to hear the glories of Lord Vishnu. So, and when Sukadev then later came, at the end of the first canto, he said, O Brahmins, by your mercy you have purified me. You have made me a place of pilgrimage. And he thought himself unfit to be a servant of the Vaishnavas. So Maharaj Pariksit, he was a Mahabhagavat. He was a ruler of the world. And he thought himself to be a servant of the Vaishnavas. What a mentality. That if you look at the politicians today, is there someone who says, no, I'm not so good, the other man, the other one is better than me, you vote for him. That humility is not there. So Maharaj Pratiparudra, so Lord Chaitanya did not want to see him because Maharaj Pratiparudra was a king. Then Pratiparudra gave up his kingly dress and put on the dress of a humble Vaishnava. He went to massage Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, and then Lord Chaitanya asked him, who are you? Pratiparudra said, I'm the servant of your servant. So this explains how powerful it is, this verse, to serve the devotees. Prahlad Maharaj, when he was offered all benedictions by Lord Nrsimhadev, he said that he did not want it. I've seen my father, he said. He had everything and you took it away in a second. What is the use of all these things? Why are you asking? Just let me have the chance to be the servant of your pure devotee. That can read that in Bhagavatam 7.9.24. 7.9.24. There in the purport. By studying Srimad Bhagavatam, every intelligent man can get experience like that of Prahlad Maharaj through the historical incidents mentioned in this great literature of spiritual knowledge. By following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj, one should gain through experience that all material opulences, they are perishable at every moment. So to save oneself, one should take shelter of a pure devotee. So in the beginning of the purport of text 15 here, Srila Prabhupada writes, pure devotees of the Lord are more powerful than the waters of the sacred river Ganges. One can derive spiritual benefit out of prolonged use of the Ganges waters, but one can be sanctified at once by the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord.
Maharaj, there's some trouble with the bandwidth of your internet. Must be on your side. Is it possible you're in a temple and many other devotees are using the internet?
No, nobody is using, but I know what it is.
Often interrupted.
I can connect with another. Now it should be better. I was connected with another Wi-Fi connection that downstairs, but now I'm upstairs. So should be better now.
Okay.
So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, one can derive spiritual benefit out of prolonged use of the Ganges waters. But one can be sanctified at once by the mercy of a pure devotee of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita it is said that any person, regardless of birth as Sudra, woman or merchant, can take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and by doing so return back to Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada explains that taking shelter of the Supreme Lord means taking shelter of pure devotees. Pure devotees are always at the lotus feet of the Lord. Now I have a quote here from the Bhagavatam. I could not verify the exact verse, but it should be Canto 9, Chapter 9, verses 5, 6. That Bhagirath Maharaj had done great austerities to take Ganga Mata down to earth, and she becomes pleased with him. But she said, I won't come, because if I come, many sinful people will bathe in my waters and I will become impure. And I will be full of sinful reactions. And I will not be able to get rid of them. But Bhagirath Maharaj said, don't worry, when the pure devotees will take bath in your waters, they will take away all your sinful reactions. So the pure devotee has that power. He can purify even a holy place. In the purport there is the name of Srila Prabhupada. The pure devotee, whose only purpose is serving, is honored with the name Prabhupada or Vishnupad. This indicates that such pure devotees are representatives of the lotus feet of the Lord. Now, Mother Narayani, she said, in the beginning of the Krishna consciousness movement, they were calling Srila Prabhupada Swamiji. So, one day Srila Prabhupada said to his secretary Govinda Dasi, Swamiji is a third class address, he said. Govinda Das replied, really? What should we call you? And Srila Prabhupada replied, the spiritual master is usually addressed as Gurudev, Vishnupad or Prabhupada. And then Govinda Das said, may we call you Prabhupada? Srila Prabhupada said, yes. From that moment, the devotees started to call him Prabhupada. And here he mentions it also in the purport, but we didn't catch it. It took a while for the devotees to realize what we were supposed to be doing. He had to teach us everything, Mother Narayani said. So in verse 16 we will hear more about the eagerness of hearing. So text 16, Ko va parvatastasya punya sloketya karmana sudikamo nasrenu yat yasakali malapaham. Who is there desiring deliverance from the vices of the age of quarrel, who is not willing to hear the virtuous glories of the Lord? So, who are these people? We heard of them before. Who will not hear? We have heard that in the Shis Upanishad, in the killers of the animals, that those who don't have pious credits are Jnata Sukriti. So we can go down to the 1/3 of the sentence of the purport, that the leaders of the people are very much anxious to live in peace and friendship, but they have no information of the simple method of hearing the glories of the Lord. So this is again Mother Narayani. He said, when we first came to India in 1972-73, then we had a small temple in Juhu, Bombay. There was just a tent, and there were no loudspeakers. We used to have Mangal Arti under the stars, and it was very quiet. But still there were complaints. Kirtan is a nuisance, they complained. And one of the political leaders from Bombay came to Srila Prabhupada and said, your Kirtan is a nuisance. Srila Prabhupada said, just see. That is the nature of the leaders today. When Srila Prabhupada started in New York 1966, it was the same problem. This Kirtan, they said, is a nuisance. Waking us up so early in the morning, and they were right in the congestion section in New York City. If you have been there in 22nd Avenue, that's traffic, such a heavy traffic. And they were right in the congestion section of New York City. Big trucks passing with horrible sounds, and Srila Prabhupada said, this sound they can tolerate, but Kirtan is intolerable. This is Kali Yuga. So, we continue the purport that in other words, the foolish leaders want to completely deny the existence of the Lord in the name of a secular state. Such leaders are enacting various plans every year, but by the insurmountable intricacies of material nature of the Lord, all these plans for progress are being constantly frustrated. They have no eyes to see that their attempts at peace and friendship are failing. But here is the hint to get over the hurdle. If we want actual peace, we must open the road to understanding of the Supreme Lord Krishna and glorify Him for virtuous activities as they are depicted in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. In 1975, the chief police came to visit Srila Prabhupada. And he asked Srila Prabhupada, what can we do about crime? Srila Prabhupada replied, if you give us facility, then we will make all prisoners chant Hare Krishna. We will make all the people chant and they will become purified and there will be no more crime. That was Srila Prabhupada's reply. Then he met with the mayor of Evanston, that's in America, Illinois. In Illinois we had a temple there, so the devotees arranged Srila Prabhupada for a meeting with the mayor. At that time, we didn't have a proper building for our temple, so Srila Prabhupada was talking to the mayor of Evanston, and at that time they had just got a new building, the city hall. That is where the government of the city was meeting, and Srila Prabhupada said, why don't you give us your building, your city hall, and we will use it very nicely. But the mayor said, we just got it. He was very polite, but he refused to give the city hall to Srila Prabhupada. So, when he was on the planet, the Yadus went to the heavenly planets, and they took Indra's assembly house, Sudharma house, for Krishna. Because for Krishna they wanted to have the best of things. So Srila Prabhupada was like that, thinking very big. So, but here is the hint to get over the hurdle, is glorifying Krishna. That this is from Back to Godhead. That Back to Godhead. We can stop crime by this Krishna conscious movement. This is in a later. This is in the letter section of an old Back to Godhead. It's a letter from a prisoner in America. That's interesting. He says, as a prisoner, an inmate in the Wisconsin correctional prison system, I've been very fortunate to become involved with the ISKCON prison ministry. By the association of devotees, my old world and understanding have been shaken and turned upside down, leading me in the light of truth and bhakti. I humbly thank them for Srila Prabhupada's books and issues of the Back to Godhead, which have been beneficial to me beyond their knowing. I have a longing for India to seek out all the holy places, but right now I'm not able to do that because right where I went through the articles of Back to Godhead. I consider it a blessing to have been in contact with ISKCON and Back to Godhead magazine. They both have changed my life forever. This is how we can get peace in the world. So even prisoners can appreciate this knowledge of the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So this is proof of what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Actually, we can change the hearts of people. So every living entity is by nature a devotee of Krishna. We just need a reminder, that's it. And they will remember. The last verse for this section of today is the fourth question of the sages, which is text 17. 17. Tasya karma udarani Parikitani Shuribihi Puina Shadadananam Lilaya Dahatakala. His transcendental acts are magnificent and gracious, and great learned sages like Narad sing of them. Please therefore speak to us, who are eager to hear about the adventures he performs in his various incarnations. So they are asking about the incarnations of Krishna. They are begging to Sutta to speak about the incarnations of Krishna. So according to Burijan Prabhu and also the Acharyas he had studied, he said this question refers to the Purush incarnations. So out of the many incarnations, there are 6 prominent kinds of incarnations. The Purusha avatars, we will hear of them at the end of this chapter, of chapter 2. Yeah. And then the Lila avatars, 3rd chapter, many Lila avatars, the Guna avatars, the Manvantars. Manvantars are described from the 3rd to the 9th canto. All are about Manvantars. And the Yuga avatars and the Sakti Avesa avatars. So the answer on this question on the Purusha avatars will be given at the end of the 2nd chapter. So I sent you in the beginning of this lesson the 6 questions but it's also good to that you study the questions and where we find the answer. Like the first question, that was what's the best of all for all humanity? What is the Shreyas, the ultimate good for everyone? We find it in 1 to 6. That's the answer. And the next question is about what's the essence of all scriptures. We find in 1 to 7. But we will come to all these points. It's good to see this, to know this, the questions and the answers. So in the purpose of this verse 17, Srila Prabhupada gives a nice analogy. It's about 10 lines down in the purport. It says, the material creations are manifest for some time as perverted shadows of the spiritual kingdom and can be likened to cinemas. Interesting, to cinemas, it says. Yeah, if you've studied this sentence, you will find many analogies. First of all, the word perverted, comparing the material world to a perverted reflection, a shadow of reality, a cinema, a movie house. Continue the purport. They attract people of less intelligence caliber who are attracted by false things. Such foolish men have no information of reality, and they take it for granted that a false material manifestation is the all in all. But more intelligent men, guided by sages like Vyasa and Narada, know that the eternal kingdom of God is more delightful, larger, and eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. So when you are seeing a movie, then you can start identifying with the actors. You get into the story when you see the movie. Their story becomes your story. They cry, you cry. They laugh, you laugh. They get in trouble, you feel bad. So this is how it is. And when the show is over, then we remember again who we are. And we assume our responsibilities. Similarly, in the material world, it's like a stage. We are the star in the show. Every morning we wake up as the star in the show, the center, and we are making our own video in the cinema of the material world. Because we have forgotten our real identity. We are planning the roles assigned to us. We could be a hawk or a dog, a minister, a rich man, a poor man. And who is the director of this drama? It's a super soul. The super soul is such an expert director so that he makes you forget who you are so that you can play the role perfectly. Because if we remember that we are a servant, then how can we be the enjoyer? Servatio samridishan evistematash mityanam apamsa. He gives knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. He is the director of our drama. Srila Prabhupada said, the super soul is the director of the drama. He makes us forget who we are. So that's very interesting. In the purport of the Shatter Shloki of the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada calls material nature a dazzling reflection, where even that matter is caused to move by cooperation of the living energy of the Lord, and the material world appears as a dramatic performance to the ignorant eye. Ignorant persons may be a scientist or a physiologist in the drama of Prakriti, while the same person knows Prakriti as the illusory energy of the Lord. The same person knows it is a drama. But the problem is that we are so absorbed in our world of the drama, and therefore we forget our real existence, the real world. We forget that the real world exists. And what is our purpose in the real world? So the Lord has sent his guides to get us out of this perverted shadow, this drama, this cinema. Srila Prabhupada, to conclude, he said, the intelligent persons will follow the guides out of the cinema. Therefore, Srila Vyasadeva have given us this Srimad Bhagavatam, this torchlight, to get us out of this world of shadows. Let us take advantage and relish this wonderful gift of Srimad Bhagavatam. Follow Srila Prabhupada, Sukadev Goswami, and Srila Vyasadeva out of this world. So this is a presentation of this section that we are meant to cover today, and we will now have first a pause of 10 minutes. I think in India it's now 7 p.m. so 10 past 7 p.m. or we will resume, and then we will discuss first the questions we find in the chat and any other point you want to discuss. So we resume in 10 minutes. Please take a break, get up. Thank you. So, Hare Krishna, we will resume now. I first want to answer a question of Nilamani Prabhu that she put in the chat in the beginning. Just I want to check. Just a moment. Okay. That's fine. So Nilamani Prabhu is writing, Vasudev is the symbol of the transcendental position wherein the appearance of the Lord takes place, wherein the appearance of the Supreme Lord takes place. So when we will hear about that in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Vasudeva and Devaki, the parents of Krishna. First Krishna appeared in the mind of, or the heart of Vasudeva, because Vasudeva was in perfect Krishna consciousness. Therefore he appeared first in the mind of Vasudeva and was then transferred to the womb of Devaki. So therefore Vasudeva is a symbol of transcendental position. The transcendental position, the symbol of being in pure Krishna consciousness, and then Krishna appeared, he made his appearance. So that is the meaning of Vasudeva. Is the symbol of the transcendental position, as I understood it. So are there any questions on the points we have discussed?
So Maharaj, in that sense, in that sentence, Vasudeva is referring to not Krishna, but Devaki and Vasudeva, right? Vasudeva?
In the purport, yeah.
Yes, okay.
That, yes. So, Ajay Prabhu, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for all great points that you brought up. So one thing I noticed in verse 13 purport about qualifications of a listener,
Yeah.
speaker and listener. So here the fourth point is one must be in the chain of disciplic succession and learn spiritual art of spiritual hearing. So means this, what it says, even to become a listener, to a qualified listener of Vihe-Bhaktivaibhava, one should be in the chain of disciplic succession.
Yes. Yes.
So one has to, yeah.
Yeah. If you hear from someone in the chain of disciplic succession, then you are in the chain of disciplic succession.
I see.
And then you are the next one in the succession. Yes.
Right.
So
it means you have to be duly initiated, accept a spiritual master.
Well, initiated, and one must follow the instructions of the representative of Krishna.
Which is part of that.
So being in the disciplic succession means the connection with the spiritual masters, one of service, following his instructions. Yes,
Yes.
But the foremost instruction is hearing about Krishna. That's very important. Yeah. Good.
Very interesting. Thank you, Maharaj.
So, Pratik Prabhu, you want to say something, please?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much. I had a question about the same line Ajay Prabhu just asked. Here, learn the spiritual art of submissive hearing. Like, is it like we naturally, while going through Srimad Bhagavatam, we learn, or is there something else here Prabhupada is talking about that? Like, submissive hearing, what does spiritual art, Prabhupada is saying, spiritual art of submissive hearing.
Submissive,
so is this something?
Yeah, submissive
Yeah.
hearing. In Bhagavad Gita, there Srila Prabhupada writes, I don't have the exact reference, but he says, yes, one must at least theoretically accept that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and not challenge that. So that's submissive hearing. Submissive hearing means also humility. I'm a conditioned soul, I'm in trouble. That and submissive means, yeah, I'm not thinking myself the master. I'm not thinking I know better. That if you think you know things better, yes, there is nothing to learn. That so one meets a spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, right? And one must learn how to put questions before the spiritual master. That so that is an art to learn. The submissive is very important. If you are not submissive, you cannot learn anything. And it starts with accepting theoretically that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the beginning. And then they go from there. And then by hearing you get faith. Yes, but submissive is... There is also a whole culture beyond, and that is interesting. That if you hear from the spiritual master or from devotees, and you would sit on a higher platform than them, you cannot learn anything. That of course there may be reasons when you have when you are invalid or old, then you can sit on a chair. But that is a practical thing. That's principle of being humble is that. Does that help?
Little more elaboration, if possible. Like you said that we have to learn how to ask question to spiritual master. So
How to put questions before the spiritual master. Then these questions should be meaningful. The questions should relate to the subject matter. That is explained by the spiritual master, and with the idea especially to understand how to put this knowledge into practice in my life. So the point is, we should always think what is therein for me to practice that, and then you have a. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada said, otherwise one has no business to approach a spiritual master if you don't ask the questions that will help you advance. So that is an important aspect. That understanding how can I bring this in practice. That yeah, that's the main point. Is that okay?
yes, Maharaj, thank you so much.
Someone has any other question? That yeah, Shyamananda Prabhu, please speak.
Yes, I wanted to ask a little bit further clarification also what just was discussed and asked by Pratik. Sometimes we see that even though somebody is not eager to hear or not even remotely eager to hear, but still he's coming in contact with the knowledge, and somehow he finds the entrance to spiritual life. And my question is a little bit, it's difficult for me to formulate. Like, what is the silver lining, whether if somebody comes in contact with the Bhagavatam or the holy name, and he maybe only makes fun of it or is in jest, but somehow then the situation turns. So what is the silver lining of somebody turning away again or somebody becoming attracted?
Yeah, that lies him in the development of taste. Taste is very important. We will study that in verse 2:8 to 16, I think. Sushrusha Dadanasya Vasudev Kataruchi. Taste is very important. That and this taste is given from within by Krishna when he's pleased with our endeavor for hearing and pleasing the spiritual master. That combination. So that is a very important aspect. That yeah, why someone, but there is also another aspect that I was thinking of, that one may be not be expert in asking questions, but if when you are in an assembly of devotees, then other devotees ask questions, and then you recognize, yes, that's an interesting question, that's also my doubt, and then one gets the answer. So there are unspoken questions in our deeper self that and still one makes advancement like that. So association of devotees is in that sense important. But we have heard Manasumana Mateo, we are lazy in making spiritual advancement. But when you are in association of devotees, they ask questions, and by these questions and answers, we can make an advancement also by hearing the questions from others. That so yes, these are interesting points. Does that help? Anything?
Yes, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's go to Vaidyanatha Prabhu, please.
Yes, we have here the sages in the forest of Naimisharanya, and I always find it very interesting to find out about the people who ask those questions, like Arjuna and Bhagavad Gita. So I try to understand what is their level of knowledge, because they say of Srila Sutta Goswami that he is submissive, that he has this quality of hearing submissively, that he is blessed by the spiritual authorities, he has all this knowledge. But the questions that they put definitely allude to the fact that they themselves are also quite educated.
Yeah.
So, and actually, do they have this submissive attitude themselves, or are they just are they just jnanis? There are so many scriptures, and they don't really know what is best, so they ask Sutta Goswami, whom they think he has some higher knowledge, or are they themselves in need of spiritual enlightenment?
Well, we will hear that further also. The sages of Naimisharanya, they are in fact Krishna conscious. That, but and that how do we know that? By their eagerness to put forward questions to Sutta Goswami, and they will tell a little further to Sutta Goswami. I think it's in the beginning of the fourth chapter. Fourth chapter. We will hear. They will tell Sutta Goswami, please tell us more, but only when it's related to Krishna. Otherwise, we don't want to hear it. And we will hear that also later in the 15th or 16th chapter, that will come up again in this canto. That if it's not related to Krishna, we don't want to hear it. We want to hear about Krishna. So they have this eagerness, this laulyam, what we said, to hear about Krishna. So to have that taste, to have this laulyam, you must already be on an elevated platform. But interesting is that they were doing these sacrifices for the benefit of all people of Kali Yuga. They were going to do a sacrifice from 1,000 years. That's a long time. But after performing these sacrifices, they found out these sacrifices have not the required effect. In Kali Yuga, that doesn't work. So they came to the conclusion, yes, Bhagavad Dharma, this Krishna Katha, that will help us, because they heard about Maharaj Pariksit, that and they were very eager. So my conclusion is that their advancement, how can we measure it? By their eagerness to hear, and that will be expressed again in the 4th chapter by Saunaka Rishi, who is the head of all these sages, and is speaking on their behalf. And Saunaka Rishi, even in the 3rd canto, he will again ask questions, and we will hear also about questions, because that's also in the beginning of the 2nd canto. Sukadev Goswami will say, yeah, Varyaste Varyan, Prashna te Varyan, or yeah, something like that. Your questions are very glorious, he says, because they are related to Krishna. That so this, I agree, these sages, they were not ordinary sages, that they knew the importance of Krishna Katha and as a method to make spiritual advancement, and they were attracted to Krishna. So does that help, Vaidyanatha?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Hare
Yeah. Advaita Krishna Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. It's just one reflection on the point of Vaidyanatha Prabhu's question was also because they chose among them the most qualified and senior person to ask questions to represent them, which was Shaunaka Rishi. It was also this. Then I was also thinking that there was 60,000 sages were there, and were they all of the same school of thought? Just like in the case of when Parikshit Maharaj was speaking, was hearing from Shukadev Goswami, he was confused in the beginning because everyone was suggesting so many different things to do, up to the point where Shukadev Goswami walked in and he just jumped and sat on the Vyasasana, and there was no question left as who and what path to follow. So does that indicate that maybe in the crowd, in the assembly of the sages, there were also different categories of philosophers, tapasvis, different people following different paths?
Yes,
And
certainly, because we first we can go to Sukadev Goswami instructing Maharaj Pariksit. And Maharaj Pariksit was sitting down at the Ganges to fast until death. And he wanted just to hear the glories of Lord Vishnu. And then all these sages came from all over the universe. So many sages came. And they were practically all disciples of Srila Vyasadeva. Srila Vyasadeva, we will hear later, had divided the Vedas in different parts. He divided the Vedas because he saw that Kali Yuga will coming, and because the Vedas were transferred verbally, orally. There was no books. That it was once hearing, once remember, and one could remember it, but Kali Yuga, the memory went back. Therefore, in the beginning there was one Veda, and then he divided the Vedas in 4 Vedas and then divided it further, and he appointed different disciples as professors of certain parts of the Vedas, and so they all were specialized in a branch of the Vedas, and they saw the absolute truth through their little knowledge of that part of the Vedas. And therefore, when Maharaj Pariksit asked them, what's the duty of a man about to die? They all gave different answers. And Maharaj Pariksit became confused. So that was a very diverse. Also, Gautama Muni was there, and yeah, many others with their own philosophies, was just such a variety that so Sukadev Goswami will see when he speaks the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is presented in such a way that according to the level they can understand things through their perspective, and that's interesting. That, but the Bhagavatam points to the Supreme Personality of Godhead finally. That so there were so many sages with different ideas, partial knowledge of the Vedas, and we can see that in Namisaranya, 60,000 sages, the same situation was there. That, but they accepted Saunaka Rishi to ask the questions. Saunaka Rishi is at the power, it said, from 1,000 sages. He was the most scholarly advanced and he was asked to, he asked the questions on behalf of all the others. And we see that to the questions, these 6 questions of the sages that we have now, the 6 questions show that they want to know the absolute truth. Tell us what's the essence. So they did not agree about the essence. There must be a variety. If they all agreed about the essence, they did not have to ask that question. Then it's useless, the question everyone knows. So they had not the full picture, the full understanding. And Saunaka Rishi, he asked that on behalf of all the other sages to clarify these points. Therefore, he's asking what's the shreyas, what's the best for everyone, what is the essence of the scriptures, because they had all studied different scriptures. So but overall the majority was very eager to hear about Krishna. So that means because Sutta Goswami, he was sitting there in the audience with Maharaj Pariksit when the Bhagavatam was spoken. So many of the sages probably had already heard about the glories of the Bhagavatam. And now, but they didn't hear it directly, so they wanted to hear it. So there are different perspectives, different points to make here. So that confirms there was a variety of sages. Does that help, Veda Krishna?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I think, this is almost the general rule every time there's a personality speaking. When Bhishma Dev was speaking to Yudhishthira Maharaj, again, all the elite of the universe assembled, and they're not exactly all of the same, darshana. So,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mother Ambika, please.
Thank you, Maharaj. I wanted to ask a question, but actually it goes backwards to our yesterday's class.
Yeah,
and
fine.
Srimad Bhagavatam 1.6, where it describes a bona fide hearer and a bona fide speaker.
Yeah.
And it's said that a representative must be free from all kinds of vices. So how about in a situation if somebody is, for example, associated with some people who are not free from those vices, at least fully? So is it also harmful?
Yeah, that is a very practical consideration that you make, and it's important. We all have to deal with people who are not devotees. We cannot get out of it. We have to deal with them. But associate means that we are going to do what they are doing. So we don't do that. But still, there may be some influence. But if we have a proper sadhana, then we will still be influenced, but we will not cultivate these desires. That, sorry. That, so we cannot cultivate, we will not cultivate these desires. So that is important. Association means doing what they are doing. But still we will be influenced by their constant engagement in lower modes. But that's characteristic to this world. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, nobody is free from the influence of the modes of material nature. Nobody is free from that. But the point is that we should not act according to these material desires. So that is an important point, that if we start to meditate of what they are meditating on, that we cannot do. Like I see after 30 years ago, I would be many times a victim of many desires that come into my mind. And after 30 years, my mind and my intelligence sometimes still make plans to do things, but we should not do. But I never do it. but the plans are made. But finally, always the conclusion is, no, I should not do it. So, and Krishna protects us in that way. So it's a serious question that you brought up, and I think it's important if we want to sit on the Vyasa-san, and because sitting on the Vyasa-san is not just a physical thing. The point is, if one has not purity in heart when one speaks from the Vyasa-san, it will not touch the heart of the hearer. It will not touch the heart of the hearer. But when a pure person speaks, then it touches the heart of the hearer. We have seen the potency of Prabhupada and many devotees in our movement by their purity. Does that help, Mother Ambika?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Nilamani Prabhu, you have another question?
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, regarding the question 5 and 6 that the sages are asking, when we read the translations at least, basically both are very, very similar in phrases, right? In terms of the sages are asking to understand more about the pastimes and adventures of Krishna. I'm trying to understand how is it that they were kind of split into two questions, one related to Purusha avatars and one related to Leela avatars. Really.
Yeah,
where is the distinction?
Yeah. That point we will discuss tomorrow, because we will discuss these two questions tomorrow. It's okay if we save that question for tomorrow? and we
That's
will
fine.
give attention to it during the class. Thank you, Prabhu. Ratnam Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, this is 60, the 16th verse, the last sentence in the purport. It
Yeah.
said the transcendental name of Krishna, even though uttered unconsciously or by force of circumstances, can help one obtain the free from the hurt of birth and death. Can you give some example of what is meant by the free of means by force of the circumstances, Maharaj?
And, where is that sentence in the?
By force of circumstances.
It's in text 16.
Last in the purport, sorry,
Yeah.
14, Maharaj. Srimad Bhagavatam 14.
Okay, that makes
14.
sense. That so the transcendental name of Krishna, even though uttered unconsciously or by force of circumstances, can help one obtain freedom from the hurdle of birth and death. We will hear in the 6th canto the example of Ajamil. The force of circumstance, what was the circumstances that forced him to utter the name of Narayan? He was calling his son who was named Narayan, that was the circumstances. But he was not fully conscious that the holy name Narayan is Narayan himself. He was calling his son. And so, by the force of the circumstances, that he got free from birth and death finally, that the Yamadutas could not take him away. So that is a practical example. These verses, we can understand that all these principles in this first canto will be expanded on in the rest of the Bhagavatam. So we have the whole beginning of the 6th canto is the story of Ajamil. So the holy name is so powerful. It's mentioned also in Harinam Chintamani. Harinam Chintamani, there you can read, yes, the different kinds of Namabhas chanting. Namabhas. And
Yes.
that means not consciously chanting the name of the Lord. And Bhaktivinoda Tagore gives the example of the Muslim who got attacked by a boar, and the tusk went into his body, and he was chanting Haram, 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 which in Persian means abominable. But Haram is Hari and Ram, Krishna's names, and he got liberation. So powerful it is that yes. So that's we will hear further in the Bhagavatam. Does that help to understand this point? Thank you. Okay. Vaidyanatha Prabhu, any further comment?
Question: are there any incidences where we should not say the name of Krishna? I mean, devotees tend to say, instead of "Oh God," they say "Oh Krishna," and when they stumble, say "Oh Krishna," and but is there a prohibition against saying Krishna's name under certain circumstances, or is that just not there?
Well, if we hear Lord Chaitanya, the second verse of Shikshastikam, there it is said that there are no rules and regulations for chanting your holy name. So you can chant your holy name in all circumstances. There are no rules and regulations. So I don't see any prohibition of chanting the holy name of Krishna. Of course, when Lord Chaitanya was going to pass stool, he was biting his tongue for that, and when he came back, then one Bhakta said that why are you keeping your tongue like that? He said because when I'm passing stool in a dirty place, Lord Chaitanya said my tongue cannot stop chanting the holy names.
Mhm.
And the Bhakta said, said to Lord Chaitanya, but when you die on the toilet?
Mm.
And Lord Chaitanya said, you are my guru, and he called him Gopal Guru. He became a great devotee later. That's a story that I remember when you make that point. Yeah, that's what I can say.
We have the 10 offenses. One
Yeah,
of those is to be inattentive while chanting.
yeah,
So that's one of the offenses, isn't it? I say, oh, I stumbled, Hare Krishna. So I'm thinking of my foot, you know. I hurt my foot maybe, and I'm saying Hare Krishna. So I'm inattentively chanting, or maybe I have some material motive.
yeah.
But still, I mean,
Yeah.
it's some type of chanting, isn't it? It's offensive chanting, but even it is some type of chanting.
Yeah, it's offensive chanting, inattentive chanting, because we are the consciousness and we are not there, and that's a problem. So you
Yeah.
are not really chanting because you are not there, but still it will have still an effect, better than not chanting.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. Okay.
Maharaj,
Uh,
Maharaj,
yes, Ratnam Prabhu.
Maharaj, yes, for a faithless person, instructing him to chant is also an offense, right, Maharaj? So under all circumstances, faithless person. For a faithless person, if you instruct him to chant by forceful, that's forcefully if you tell them to chant, it's a offense, right, Maharaj? So
Yeah,
will he
that
get
we should not do. No,
that's
that,
condition.
that's what Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita. One should not explain the secret to those who are not austere and who are not my devotees. So that is an offense. But sometimes the devotee wants to be more compassionate than Krishna and takes the risk. But sometimes it goes wrong by taking that risk. But devotees want to be compassionate. Sure. Good point. Thank you. Rajeshwar Koranga Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is, yesterday's class you mentioned that Vyasadev used to worship Goddess Saraswati. And we found that there's a verse that Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswati. So we have to, there's saying that, we have to pay our obeisances to Goddess Saraswati also. And we find in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Keshav Bharati, Keshav Kashmiri, so he also worshipped Goddess Saraswati. So, my question is, as a devotee worshipping Goddess Saraswati, how is it meaningful? Is that required? And Vyasadeva did not know that Krishna is the supreme person of Godhead, and everything is emanating from him. So, but why did he worship Goddess Saraswati then?
So we see also residents of Vrindavan worshipping the demigods, but it's not the same than ordinary demigod worship. We worship demigods, ordinary people worship demigods for material benefit. But this is not worship. Demigods for material benefit is to getting the mercy of Krishna, to get our intellectual our intellect fixed on Krishna. That therefore it's different. But there is no need to do that in principle. But the devotee is respectful to the demigods and ask for their blessings to advance in devotional service, but never for material benefit. That's not required. Yes, that's the basic point here, I think. Is that
So
okay?
Maharaj, to get spiritual knowledge, so we can pray to Goddess Saraswati also, right, Maharaj? Is that
We can follow in the footsteps of Sutta Goswami here in the Bhagavatam, but only in their footsteps, not on your own initiative. These are our previous acharyas. Yes. This Mother Saraswati represents an energy of the Lord, and a devotee uses the energies in the service of Krishna. So he prays that he can use his intellect in the service of Krishna. That's good. It's okay? Okay.
yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
We will take a last question from Advaita, or from Emanga Chaitanya Prabhu. No, first Advaita Krishna Prabhu, sorry. Advaita Krishna Prabhu, you speak first. And then we will hear Emanga Chaitanya and then finish.
Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Maharaj always used to chant this Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim. And once I asked him about this, and he said that the prayer is to Lord Sri Krishna. And then the prayer is also to the Narayan Rishi, who are the presiding deities of that place where the Bhagavatam was written. And that prayer is also to Mother Saraswati, because she is a goddess of learning and writing, and her Shakti is also required. So he always used to chant that prayer before giving Bhagavatam class. So, but like you said, we're following in the footsteps of the Acharyas, so there's nothing wrong.
Yeah. Thank you for that comment, Advaita Krishna Prabhu. That confirms things. Thank you. Very good. Emanga Chaitanya Prabhu, last point.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Maharaj. I just want to find out, it is said in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was asking questions on behalf of us. It was not necessarily his questions. Is it correct to say in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shaunaka Rishi and the other sages are asking questions on behalf of us, not necessarily for them to be answered, or they are also seeking these kind of answers?
In some sense, that's correct, because they are concerned with the welfare of all the people in Kali Yuga. And they know, Shaunaka Rishi knows, that the hearing of the Bhagavatam is the answer. So he's asking these questions to get the Katha from the Bhagavatam going on out of compassion for the people of Kali Yuga, because that is what we will learn in the next lesson. The last question is, Krishna has left us. He left us, and Kali Yuga started. So where are we going now to get the light from in Kali Yuga? And the answer is, the torchlight for Kali Yuga is this Bhagavatam. So Shaunaka Rishi wants us to hear the Bhagavatam. It's for us, the Bhagavatam. We today here, it's for us. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your very interesting questions. That I feel very inspired by your questions. That is, yes. And so I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow. That those who want to ask me questions, better not on WhatsApp, but I put now my email in the chat box, that you can write me on that email address. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Bol.
Joy to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Bol.